Hey guys, it's Jen and I'm here today to share with you some products that Arteza, or Arteza, I don't know exactly how you say it, sent for me to try out, which I'm super excited about because I have been seeing Jen McGuire and Christina Werner using at least the Arteza real brush pens, and so I've been anxious to try those out. But I also received some acrylic paints and some watercolors, and I'm really excited because if these are good products, they're super inexpensive compared to a lot of things out there, and I know they're having a sale right now too, so I'll leave information for that in the video description below. But they're super inexpensive, so I'm excited to try these out. So I've just pulled a whole bunch of different papers and mediums, and I've got stamps and paintbrushes and all sorts of things that I'm going to just kind of play around with these. So I'll probably just put you on fast forward and talk about what I'm doing as we go through. And I think what I'll start with is the real brush pens. So let's go ahead and get started with that.
Okay, so I'm starting with these brush pens, and I've tried the brush pens from Zig, the Zig Clear Color, Clean Color Real Brush Pens. These are very similar, and I'm just going to pull out a couple. There are lots of different colors of these, and I just have kind of like the basics set. This is a 12 set. Now this is some like really soft, not soft, but like smooth cardstock that I'm using now, but it doesn't work wonderfully. So I pull out some BRISTOL paper, and that works so much better. So if you've watched Christina Werner or Jennifer McGuire at all, they always use the BRISTOL paper when they're using real brush pens like this, and it does make a humongous difference. It doesn't soak into the paper as quickly. It kind of stays on the top, so it's easier to blend. So I'm just coloring all of the colors, and then I have a water brush where I'm just kind of pulling the color out so I can see the intensity I can get versus how light I can get it as well. And of course, since these are like just the main colors of the rainbow, I can mix any of these to make other colors, but because they're so inexpensive, I'm really thinking about getting the large set of these, especially after the technique I try here in just a minute. So I don't redo the black and the brown that I had done on the other paper because I don't care about those colors that much. But what I'm doing now is I'm just mixing the pink directly into the yellow, and you can see there's a little bit of orange in the center, and I didn't use water with that. And then this time I did use water, so it's a little bit of a softer look. So I'm just kind of playing around, seeing what kind of colors I can get and what these markers are going to behave like, and they're pretty much just like the Zig Clean Color Real Brush Pens, so I'm pretty familiar with how to use them. Here I'm going to take a stamp, and I'm stamping it in some archival black ink from Close to My Heart, and just using this stamp set that says Then and Now. This is from Ali Edwards, and I'm just going to color inside of these and then pull the color out to just see what I can what looks like and kind of get coloring in stamps. Now this ink wasn't the best for me to use, and the color does kind of change because of that. You can see some of the black pulls out of the color. So I would probably use a different ink, maybe StazOn or something else before using these, or at least make sure that the ink was completely dry, because I don't think I was very good about that. But it still looks cool, and I can get an idea of what I can do with it. Now I'm just cleaning off my little work surface there, and I think that I've got some watercolor paper here now. And just again playing with the different colors, trying to see how I can blend them. I keep using the pink and the yellow because I really love the way that those two colors look together. And now I'm coming back to that cardstock I used at the beginning, just because I wanted to see what kind of brush lettering look I could get with these, and it works really great, as you can see there. Now I'm using a light color, yellow, to write the word hello, because I want to try seeing if when I write this down that I can blend colors on that. But then I realized I need to use the other color of paper, or the other kind of paper that blends more easily. So what I did was I wrote my name in yellow, and then I just took that pink marker and I'm just adding a little bit to the tops of the letters, and then I'm pulling the color down into the letters. And that was a fun thing to try, and I will do that again here as well. But I'm just adding a little bit more pink to the top, and these work really great. I definitely suggest BRISTOL paper or a watercolor kind of paper. So here I have my tonic Tim Holtz little stamp platform, and what I'm going to do is something that I saw Tim Holtz do recently on scrapbook.com. He had a video, and that is to use, I think he used distress markers, but what you do is you color the stamp with the ink, and then you spritz it with water and then stamp it down, and you get a really watercolory look going on. And this works really especially great with the kind of layering stamp sets. This one that I'm using is from Felicity Jane, and it's in their recent, what's the collection called? I can't remember at this very moment, but I will link to it in the video description for sure. And here I'm using a darker color, so those are the leaves. And now I'll do the flower, and I'm just making sure I got that in the right spot there. And I'm coloring yellow first because I'm going to go work from lightest to darkest. So I just spritz some water on there. I feel like I could have probably used a little bit more water to make it a little bit more flowy rather than as crisp as it gets, but it still looks watercolory and it still looks really pretty. You'll see, I'll show a close-up at the end here, but now I'm doing the second layer, and I'm doing the pink color, and I spritz that, and now I'm stamping it down. And I think it's starting to look really pretty. And then I'm going to do a red. I think I do red for the last layer here. I'm making sure it dries, although I kind of wish I wouldn't have, because the colors would have flowed a little bit better if I had left it wet. But it just depends on what kind of look you're going for, because this gives a really nice look too. So coloring with the red, spritzing it with some water, stamping it down, and I stamp it down twice, and it gives a really pretty kind of effect for this flower. I think that this is something fun that I would try a lot of times. I would try it over and over. There's a little bit of a closer look, but I really like the idea of using those real brush pens for that. So here I just wrote the word hi, and I'm going to try again to just blend those colors. So I used a blue this time with the yellow, and it turns into kind of like that aqua or teal color as I blend it out, and I think that's really pretty too. I like using my hand lettering for titles sometimes on scrapbook pages, and so that's something I would definitely try. So there's a little bit of a closer look at that.
Okay, so now I want to try out the Premium Watercolors by Arteza, and I have just this little cheapo palette that I got at Michael's or something, and I put some inexpensive watercolors in here before, and they all kind of flaked and cracked and fell out. So I cleaned out this side so that I could just throw these watercolors in here, and I just put a tiny little drop in it so you can see like these will last a long time. I just have the 12 pack, but they have lots more, and if I like these I might order the other ones because they're very inexpensive. It does come with white, which I probably won't use very much, and black, which I might for fine lining things. I don't know. I'm not a watercolorist. Arit Landgraf can tell you all that kind of stuff, but it does have, and I think this is important to some people, but I don't know what it means. It does have like the pigments in it, so it says PW6, PG7, and PB15. I don't know what those mean, but I hear Arit talking about them, and so I really don't know what it means, but I'm going to play around with these and see how I like them. So I just have some water here and some different brushes, and I'm going to play around first on just a piece of watercolor paper. Actually, let's swatch them first. I'm going to go ahead and put you on fast forward while I do the swatches.
So I just drew a line with a black marker just to test the opacity of the colors here, and I'm just swatching each one as I go, and the colors are pretty different from the color that's on the outside of the tube, so I think this is an important step to take, is to swatch the colors. And so I don't really know what I'm doing. As I've mentioned, I am not super adept at watercolors. I just like to play around and have fun with them, but here I'm just playing with them. Now they do seem like they maybe aren't quite as vibrant as I thought they might be. They are pretty and bright colors, but you have to really keep a lot of paint on your brush and not as much water if you want that vibrancy. But they're really fun, and I had fun playing with them, and then they'll definitely be used in my stash. So there are the colors swatched out. Now here's where I'm trying to show you that the colors don't necessarily match the outsides of the tubes. So I'm going pretty quickly because I kept it fast forwarded, but that's okay. So now what I want to do is I'm just laying down some water on some watercolor paper, and I'm just going to drop in some color and just kind of play around with it. As I mentioned, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just having fun trying to see how these colors flow and how they mix together and what kinds of things I could maybe try that are in my wheelhouse of working with watercolors. So I'm just trying to see how it mixes when I put the different colors next to each other. So the yellow next to the blue should make kind of a green color, and then the yellow next to the pinkish red should make an orange color. And so that's just kind of what I'm playing with now. So here I'm going to take a few different colors and mix them together and see what kind of color I get in the center. And so again, just kind of playing. I wanted to make a purpley color in between this pinkish red and the blue, but it was very subtle. It didn't work quite how I thought it would. And maybe it's just me not knowing how to mix things. I'm just here just trying to get a good purple color going. So I'm not very good at this, as I mentioned. Anyway, so I'm just playing around. I'm just going to keep playing and mixing and just having fun with it. And like I mentioned, I'm not like a watercolor artist. I'm not going to use this for anything really specific. What I'll use it for is scrapbook layouts mostly. And so it's not a big deal to me. I'm just kind of playing around, and that's what I'll be doing on my pages as well. So here I just dropped in some water in a circle, and now I'm just going to put some color inside of it. So I start with some blue, and then I'm going to pick up some yellow, and this is kind of that darker ochre yellow, not the bright lemon yellow. And so I'm just trying to see how these colors react when they mix together. And I'm just going to keep playing in some color and seeing what kind of effect that I get. And it's just fun to play around, you know. The thing about watercolors is that you can just drop in color and it might not look amazing, but when it dries, it looks really awesome. So I'm just keeping that in mind too. Now I'm trying to get just kind of like a little pinkish color so I can create a flower. It's been a long time since I did something like this. I had a period of time where I was really experimenting with watercolors and painting flowers and stuff. And so I do have a little bit of experience in that, but I'm not great, just playing around. So I'm just getting the different colors to move. I kept the brush really wet so that I could drop in other darker colors as I went along. And that's kind of what I'm doing now. And it looks okay. Not my best work, but I've got to, in order to keep up on things, you've got to keep practicing, which I have not really done. So just adding in a little bit of that orangey color as well. And you'll see later in the video, at the end of this video, I'll show you these kinds of things a little bit more close up so you can see how they dried and turned out. But I just had a lot of fun playing with the watercolors here. So I'm adding a little bit more color now that it has dried, and then I'm going to move on to something else. Here I'm just pulling out another piece of watercolor paper. And what I decide to do here is get a larger brush. This is a filbert brush, but I would use a flat brush probably. And I'm just going to try to do like a rainbow of color. So I'm going to I'm starting with red, which that's more of a pinkish red, and I'm just going to go back and forth and do all of the colors of the rainbow. And I think that this turned out really cute. And this is something that I would definitely use on a scrapbook layout, is a technique like this. Just something very, very simple where I'm just drawing lines, and it's simple and it's easy and it's pretty. And that's kind of the look that I go for and what I use these kinds of things for. So I'm just mixing the colors a little bit to get the variation between each one that I need, that I feel like I want. And I really like the way that blue color turns out that I just did. And now I'm trying to get a purpley color going, and I'm having a little bit of a hard time, but there we go. And I'm mixing it a little bit more to get another line underneath it. And I think it turns out fun. So I really like the way that looks. Here's this one dry. I showed you really, really quickly. My other one isn't quite dry yet, but here are the swatches. And now I'm going to move on to the acrylics. So acrylic paints are something that I've used a lot before, and I mostly use acrylics to paint over things like wood veneers or to create like stripes or something on a layout. So I'm just going to play around to see like the consistency and the quality of these. And they're great. Like, I don't have anything like specifically amazing to say about them, but they work really well and the colors are nice. They have lots and lots of colors, but I just have like kind of the basics set here. And I'm just using this little rubber, it's kind of like a paintbrush, except it's just a flat rubber tool that you can use to spread paint, like rather than a credit card or something like that. And so I'm just playing around with that. And basically what I loved about playing with these acrylics was just trying out some different techniques that I haven't done before, or just reminding myself the different things that I can do with acrylic paint. So I'm just mixing some colors there on my palette and just kind of playing around and having a little bit of fun as I do that. And so I'm going to get another piece of paper here in a second, because I was just kind of basically spreading paint around. Now, this is a technique I'm trying to do. I can't remember. I learned this on like KBYU or something. I don't know, some public access channel. There was a lady who did painting. I think it was Donna Newberry or something, where you get 2 colors of paint and you load up your brush, and then she would mostly paint flowers and stuff, but you'd get that 2-tone look just with the 2 different colors on your brush, and they'd mix in the middle. That's what I was kind of trying to do here, but it didn't quite work out. I didn't have enough paint, I don't think, and I don't know, it's just something I was just trying on the fly, but just to see if I could remember how to do that kind of thing. But I'm just playing around. So I found a little piece of wood veneer, and I'm going to paint that, and just because that's another thing that I'll use these acrylics for, is painting. And I did add a little bit of water to the acrylic paint to wet it down a little, and that's the other thing I would probably do with these, is wet down the acrylic paints and use it for splattering or something like that, because when I use acrylic paints, I paint wood or I alter colors of things, and then I also mix a little bit of water with it to make splatters, and that's mostly what I use acrylics for. So I do try something here though in a minute that I have not done before, and it made me super excited about playing with my acrylic paints, and you'll see that here in just a second. But that little wood piece turns out pretty cute too. And I'm trying some brush lettering now, and that works great as well. Now here I've got a palette knife, and I'm just smoothing some black paint onto a piece of paper. I have these little rubber mark making tools that you can just make little marks in the acrylic paint. So I was trying that out. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just playing around. And now I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I've got my Teflon coated little craft mat there. This one is from Close to My Heart, and it has kind of like a sticky bottom, so that whenever you stick it down, it doesn't move. It just kind of stays adhered to the table where you're working, which I really like. And so I'll make sure to link to that if I can remember to in the video description too. But now what I'm going to do is I have, and I'm sorry that there's nothing on the screen right now, but I have a jelly plate, which I have never used. And so I'm pulling that out and going to play around with that jelly plate a little bit. So here it is. And I'm just taking off there's like a protective sheet. And then I'm going to spread some paint on here. So I pulled out my brayer, and I'm just putting some paint on there, and I'm just going to roll this around until the whole thing is covered. And I started with some blue, and then I'm adding in some yellow, and I'm just cleaning my brayer off a little bit so I don't contaminate the yellow too much with the blue. And I'm just going to spread that out as well. So we've kind of got that green look now on the side, and just spreading that in a thin kind of layer. And then what I'm going to do is take a stencil, and I'm going to brayer another color over it. Now, I didn't really know what I was doing here, and this doesn't really work. This is just experimentation, so I don't really know exactly how this brayer thing is supposed to work, but I pulled off a lot of paint when I did that. And so now I'm going to grab a piece of paper and just use my brayer to spread on that paint, and you can see that only the triangles really came out. So I'm going to try this again and not use the stencil. I'm using a couple of different colors this time, some green and some like a darker yellow, and just kind of letting it mix together. And I'm going to put a little bit more yellow on there, and I'm adding a few little marks with my mark making tool, and then I'm just going to again brayer this and see what kind of look I get. And I really love the way that this looks. And something I noticed about these paints as they dry is that they are semi glossy. They're not completely flat colored. And so you'll see that, I think, at the end when I do close-ups of the colors. Now this turned out really pretty. I was really happy with the way this turned out. And I also love, look at the back of that paper where I brayer it on. It looks so pretty too. So this is something I'm really excited to try. And I'm just squirted that stencil with a little bit of water and tried to get all the paint I could off of it.
Okay, so that was fun playing. I definitely got my hands messy. Overall, I really love all of these products. It's not like I haven't used watercolors or acrylic paints before, or even real brush pens, because I have the Zig Clean Color real brush pens. But the thing about these ones is their price point is amazing. And I do have, I think, up to a 96 pack of these markers, but they're super inexpensive. I think this pack is like $10. And so is, I think the watercolors might be as well. Anyway, I'll link to their website in the video description below for sure. And you can check them out. It's really, really inexpensive. I think the products are, you know, they're good for me. I don't know, I'm no professional. I don't know things about watercolors or acrylics and stuff, but they're great for scrapbookers, I think, and probably other people too. I'll tell you though, the one thing I loved about this is that I pulled these out and I tried some things that I haven't tried before, and I used some things in my stash that have been sitting around for a long time. And so there's one thing with each of these mediums that I'm looking forward to trying on a scrapbook page. So let me just show you what I'm excited about. So I'm not very good at watercolors, but I think that the flower turned out okay. I mean, I haven't had practice in a while, but I do kind of know how to paint florals. Let's see. Anyway, so I'm excited about that, but and this looks okay. I'm not super excited about that, but I like the idea of doing just swatches of color, which I know I can do this with anything, but it just looks really pretty and I really like it. Maybe not the purple one at the bottom. I'll have to figure out, I'm not good at mixing colors, so I'll have to figure out what I can do to make this color a little bit better. But look at that minty green. I love that. Okay, so that's what I'm most excited with about the watercolors. With the brush pens, they work great. You can see that here. And they look really good on the Bristol paper, which I put somewhere right here. And you can see how nice they look and how flowy they can get. And this is full strength right here. So they do blend on here as well. And I like the way that this little circle looks. But I'm most excited about using them with stamping. So this is something I saw Tim Holtz do on a video on scrapbook.com, is to use a stamp. And he used, I think, distress markers or even distress ink pads, and then he spritzed it and then stamped, and it makes it look like you watercolored it even though you didn't. And so I'm excited about that because I think that's a really pretty look. And I think if I put even more water, it can like kind of flow out a little bit more and be a little less crisp, which will make it even more watercolory. So I really like that. And it's fun to just blend the colors as well. So I'm excited about that. And then with the acrylics, like what I usually use acrylics for is either like painting wood veneer or making splatters, but I pulled out my brayer and my jelly plate, which I've never ever used my jelly plate before, to just try some things, and I think that they turned out really cool. Now, I don't know how to do the whole stencil-y thing. You probably saw me mess that up there, but look how pretty these are. I mean, my jelly plate's only this big, but I think I need a bigger one. Look how pretty this is. I could cut this out and use it for something. This is like a Missy Whitten thing if I ever saw one to use these. And I don't know if she has a jelly plate. Anyway, but then also when I was just getting the color off my brayer, I think that is absolutely gorgeous. So I definitely want to use my brayer with some acrylics as well. So just different fun techniques that I was encouraged to try, and I have had a lot of fun, and these are definitely going in my stash. And I think that I need to do a use it or lose it coming up soon with some of these kinds of mediums. That I have a ton of watercolors and a ton of different kinds of water soluble pens and different things like that. So I want to do a use it or lose it for that. So if you are interested in that, leave me a comment below and I'll see if I can put it on my use it or lose it video series. But this has been really fun. I hope that you've enjoyed. Again, I will leave links in the video description where you can buy these things, and I'll try to remember to also leave links to the things I used, like my brayer and jelly plate and stuff like that. So if you're interested, that you can find them. So thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you think. Have you tried these products? Do you like them? Leave a comment in the video description, and we will see you again very, very soon.